All right, and we are back. Today I'm going to talk about a personal finance article that I found last week. It's based on a new report that's out. It's about millennials, and it is not good. It does not portend good news for future generations of Americans. I think this is done intentionally. I think the government school system has intentionally not taught basic financial education, has intentionally not taught sound economics. Parenting has also been bad for at least one generation, probably more than that. So there's a number of different factors. Also, when I was a freshman in college, the amount of predatory credit card companies trying to just give ridiculous amounts of credit cards to kids who were freshmen in college was just unbelievable. I'm not sure if that's still happening now because that was a little over 10 years ago, but just really sad because a lot of these kids, they're young adults, millennials, young adults, they're being set up for failure. They're graduating with just enormous amounts of student loan debt. They're not going to be up. They have no income, no job, no assets, some of them. And that's why a lot of Americans, especially younger Americans, do not have a lot of savings because they have too much debt. They have to make all these different payments. And this is why in the political system, the dangerous game we have now, where people do not have a basic financial education, do not understand sound economics, and they think that they can solve their problems with their vote. They think that they can solve their financial problems with just one vote. And that's the dangerous part. This is something that Alexis de Tocqueville wrote in his book over 150 years ago, Democracy in America. He talked about this. He predicted that once Congress figured out how to bribe the American people with their own money in exchange for votes, that America would eventually start to accelerate in its collapse. Okay, so let me talk about this report. This is going to be a fairly short show because this is just one article on personal finance, but I think it is very important. Maybe share the link to the personal finance article on the report with your kids, with your friends, maybe your nephew, younger adults, kids in college. Unfortunately, they're not going to learn the skills they need to learn to succeed in life, to even be a competent adult, like how to balance a checkbook and how to figure out how to get savings. I mean, you can't really save in fiat currencies anyway. They're not going to learn that stuff where they think that they should learn it from. I didn't learn it from my parents. My parents didn't teach me a lot of the basics. I had to read a lot of personal finance books. I had to read The Rich Dad, Poor Dad, some of those basic ones. I had to read The Richest Man in Babylon. I had to read books like that, some of the basic personal finance books. I had to learn all this stuff on my own. How to build savings, pay yourself first. So when you get your paycheck, instead of paying off all your bills, you start to build some savings. So you pay yourself first. You put money aside into a savings account. Now, obviously, you cannot save in fiat currencies because of stagflate and tax and lie, what these governments are doing, and how, cashless society may be pushed down our throats with a forced government cryptocurrency in the near future. But saving is still important. You cannot be a capitalist. You cannot be an investor without savings. You cannot be a successful business person unless you have a really, really good business plan. But good luck if you don't have any savings trying to pitch a business plan to someone and you don't have a product or service. Good luck going on Shark Tank unless you at least have a demo product or have some sales and have at least gone a few steps on the path. So if you have a good business plan and you don't have any test products or have any sales, which means that you have to have scrimped and saved and figured out how to hustle to at least get something to show investors to grow your company, to raise more capital, you're not going to do it. And this is what it all starts. The building blocks of capitalism is savings. Okay? And unfortunately now, with digital debt-based fiat currencies, the building blocks of capitalism, or what used to be capitalism, it's not capitalism now, but what used to be capitalism, which is savings or capital, it has been destroyed. And this is why, to a lot of extent, there's other reasons like rules, regulations, taxes, big government, government picking out large corporations, protecting them. But without savings, there really isn't capitalism. Obviously, there's other things stopping capitalism, but savings, developing capital, and people funding new business ventures from savings, people used to pool their savings for new investments or for new business ventures. So those days are, to a large extent, those days are gone. Okay, so let me talk about the article. The article is by Ben Werschel. Not sure if I got that right. Yahoo Finance, February 25th. New report finds only 16% of millennials qualify as financially literate. For a new report, and probably most of them who are not financially literate are supporting Bernie Sanders or Elizabeth Warren or AOC. For a new report on financial literacy, Americans were asked 3, quote, very fundamental questions to test financial literacy. Among millennials, only 16% correctly answered all 3. Dr. Andrea Hassler, one of the authors of the report, appeared on Yahoo Finance's On the Move to discuss the findings. The problem here is that financial literacy is highly linked to money management behavior and saving and planning for retirement, she says. I would add that the problem is that it's not taught by parents at the kitchen table. It's not taught at all the basics of personal finance, of saving, the basic of economics, sound money. A lot of parents are not doing their jobs, and it's definitely not taught in government schools, where they want employees with massive amounts of debt. That will be cogs in a wheel, serfs. Stagflation, tax, and lies to keep people from upward mobility. And people's standard of livings will pay the price. That's why I'm telling everyone who complains about their standard of living falling is you have to figure out, instead of just cutting pennies, budgeting and saving and cutting every single penny of your expenses. You can't cut all of your expenses, keep cutting all your expenses to the bone. The people around you, your husband, your wife, your boyfriend, your girlfriend, your kids, they're going to hate you if all you do is cut expenses. You have to figure out a way to grow your revenues. In the last 12 months, I've grown my revenues a lot. A lot of hard work. Busted my butt. Many sleepless nights, or very little sleep. Sacrifice like crazy. I finished a really good article for my Patreon account contributors. That came out at, I think, 5 a.m. That was a couple pages worth of research there. It's behind the paywall. $5 a month. Extensive research on a company that is having really bad cerveza problems, including Baby Yoda shipments delayed today. Baby Yoda toys, problems with those. Big cerveza problems. Anyways, back to the article. Sorry, got a little off tangent. The multiple choice questions covered broad concepts of numeracy, inflation, and diversification. 1. Suppose you had $100 in a savings account and the interest rate was 2% per year. After 5 years, how much do you think you would have in the account if you left the money to grow? Answers. A. More than $102. B. Exactly $102. C. Less than $102. D. Do not know. And then there's maybe the Bernie Sanders question or Karl Marx answer. E. Refuse to answer. 2, because capitalism is bad, and no one should be charging or paying interest. 2, imagine that the interest rate, but then no one can retire either. 2, imagine that the interest rate on your savings account, which would be like Animal Farm, right? The poor horse character from George Orwell's Animal Farm that had built the structure there, and then the horse, after it had finished the structure, died. Anyway, off tangent again. 2, imagine that the interest rate on your savings account was 1% per year and inflation was 2% per year. Not good. After 1 year, how much would you be able to buy with the money in this account? Answers. A, more than today. B, exactly the same. C, less than today. D, do not know. E, refuse to answer. I don't know why they have refuse to answer here. 3, please tell me whether you guys know all about inflation and stagflation, tax, and lie. That one's an easy answer. If you don't know any of the other ones, you should be able to answer that one. 3, please tell me whether the statement is true or false. And by the way, who's getting 1% in their savings account? I don't know if anyone's getting 1% anymore. 3, please tell me whether the statement is true or false. Quote, buying a single company stock usually provides a safer return than a stock mutual fund. Answers. A, true. B, false. C, do not know. D, refuse to answer. And I would write in what types of commissions and other fees, wrap accounts, and other stuff are we paying for this said mutual fund. So not enough information answer here. Because if this mutual fund's pulling out 5% commission per year? Anyway, with the information given, you can answer that question. Okay, back to the article, even the millennials who self-identified as financially literate struggled. Only 19% of that group were able to answer the 3 questions correctly. The answers were A for the first question, so it would be more than $102, if you had $100 in a savings account and the interest rate was 2% per year, after 5 years, how much do you think you would have in the account if you left the money to grow? So it would be more than $102. Question number 2 about your savings account, 1% per year, and inflation was 2%. It means that inflation is eating away your savings because inflation is more than the interest rate being paid. So you would have less savings, which would be C, less savings than you would have less than today, because your purchasing power would be declining. So C for number 2. 3 is, buying a single, it is risky to buy single company stock. So it would be false. So buying a single company stock usually provides a safer return. So that would be B, false. But I would say there's not enough information there because some, not all, some mutual funds are very predatory. For example, a gold stock mutual fund versus a gold stock ETF, gold mining stock ETF. Some of these gold stock mutual funds charge exorbitant fees, over 5% per year, I believe, management fees. So they really rape and pillage you. I don't know how many of these are still in existence, but 10 years ago when I was starting to look into gold stocks, the commissions, the fees and commissions on some of these gold stock mutual funds were insanely high. Okay, back to the article. As the report notes, the millennials, quote, defined as individuals 18 to 37 in 2018, quote, demonstrate lower basic financial literacy levels while at the same time being more likely to overestimate their own financial knowledge. So the financial literacy test used to be way higher decades ago. And I think it's not a coincidence at all. I think it's intentional. I'll put on my tinfoil hat and go full conspiracy fact here that the government schools are intentionally dumbing people down with a lack of financial education. People are going to have to learn it on their own. If you have kids, you're going to have to teach it to them. You're going to have to buy them maybe the Rich Dad, Poor Dad real estate game or other games. You're going to have to buy them beginner's book like, I think, Why There's No More Penny Candy and Peter Schiff's How an Economy Grows and Why It Crashes. You know, basic beginner's books about the investing in the economy. Okay, back to the article. Americans across all age ranges struggled with the questions, but the knowledge holes were most glaring among young people, who have the most debt too, by the way. Young people are enormously burdened with student loan debt, disproportionate levels of debt, and no assets. And a lot of them don't even have good jobs. It is truly tragic, and this is why Bernie Sanders, the man in the luxury car with 3 homes, what he's selling them sounds so appealing. In exchange for only a vote, he can solve their financial problems. Free education, free healthcare, Green New Deal, student loan debts waived. All you have to do is vote. It's too good to be true. But if you study enough economics, you learn there is no such thing as a free lunch. One of the main tenets of economics, no such thing as a free lunch. I wish more people knew this. I wish more people knew this, but a lot of people just don't care. Okay, Americans across all age ranges struggled with the questions, but the knowledge hole, most glaring among young people. I went off on a tangent and forgot that. For example, 49% of respondents aged 70 to 74 correctly answered the big 3 questions. That's pretty good, not horrible. No age group scored above 50%. Now that is bad. But financial literacy is arguably more important to the young. Quote, students have very difficult questions very early in their lifetime, says Hassler. For example, right after high school, how to fund their college. Or not go to college at all. Or maybe get a part-time job or a full-time job and get your employer to pay. The study titled Millennials and Money, the State of Their Financial Management, or get a degree that's actually going to get you a good job after college. Instead of getting that some of those courses in basket weaving or women's studies, gender studies, or very obscure Russian literature. The study titled Millennials and Money, the State of Their Financial Management and How Workplaces Can Help Them was from the Global Financial Literacy Excellence Center at the George Washington University, supported by TIAA, I think that's TIAA CREF Institute. Or that may be their not-for-profit, the TIAA Institute. I haven't heard of them. But I have a feeling they're related to TIAA CREF, the mutual fund money management company. Based on analysis data from 2018 National Financial Capability Study, the lack Hassler, a professor of financial literacy, I didn't even know there was a professor of financial literacy, that's interesting, appeared as part, she must be a very tiny group of professors like that, appeared as part of Yahoo Finance ongoing partnership with the Funding Our Future campaign, a group of organizations advocating for increased retirement security for Americans. My friend Doug Casey says it best. He says that you have to produce more than you consume. You have to save the difference. I would add that you have to learn how to invest before you start allocating your savings or capital to investments. This is a major mistake too. So people either don't build the savings, or once they have the savings, they think that they can start making big bets on normally options trading or buying individual stocks or other crazy ideas, sometimes network marketing schemes, and then they start losing their savings very, very rapidly. So you have to build up savings, and then you have to learn how to invest before, or find other paid newsletters, or maybe you want to join my Patreon account, learn some financial information, education, research from someone who's been doing this for a decade and interviewed over 500 experts who are, most of them are pretty wealthy. You can join my Patreon account for $5 a month. That's less than Turd Ferguson's $10 a month, and I think my content's better, a lot better. Lack of financial literacy intersects directly with the student loan crisis. Statistics show Americans have $1.6 trillion outstanding debt, working out to $29,200 per borrower, according to the TIAA report. 43% of millennials have a loan. Wow. So lack of financial literacy intersects directly with the student loan debt crisis. But a lot of it's parenting. The parents are not the ones warning. The parents are not telling the kids, don't take these student loan debts. What plan do you have to get a job? The parents deserve a lot of these blame, because these are 16, 17, 18, if they're going to college early, maybe 16 or 17, 18, 19-year-old kids. They're young adults, but really kids. I mean, they're into video games and hooking up and bad reality TV and watching TikTok videos. Way too much TikTok videos, apparently. I didn't even know what TikTok was a couple months ago. Now apparently they watch hours of this stuff. And here they are, loading up on enormous amounts of student loan debt. Their parents should be telling them, well, you don't have a plan. What degree are you focusing on? If you take out $80,000 or $100,000 or more in student loan debt, and your degree is going to get you a serving job, probably not a good idea. Okay, $29,200 per borrower, according to this. I think it's higher in major metro areas. According to the TIAA report, 43% of millennials have a loan, and of those that are currently working, I think it's closer to 50 grand in major metro areas. And of those that are currently working off their loan, 47%, 50 grand average student loan debt in major metro areas for people that just graduated college and started working. 47% of respondents reported that they did not look into what their monthly loan repayment bill would be at the time they decided to accept a loan. The challenge is getting young people educated and then out of debt and on the path to savings while they still have time for money to grow. As Hassler says, she often tells her students compound interest even works when we're asleep. Okay, and that's it for the article. So let me look at listener questions and comments real quick, and then this short show will be shut down. Thank you, everyone, for listening, though. Thank you, everyone, for listening to these rants. It's ridiculous. These mistakes are just compounding on themselves now for the last couple decades. They just get worse and worse. Chachi says, welcome to dystopia. I totally agree. This problem is going to take at least a couple decades to fix. Probably more than one generation. I mean, the how many books per year does the average adult read? Is it even one? Get an Audible account. Get some audiobooks. Get some podcasts. Watch some YouTube videos. If you don't like reading a book, there's a lot of other options to learn. You can buy audiobooks on Audible. They have sales all the time. An Audible membership's one of the best deals for education you can get. And no, they're not an advertiser or anything. And I'm not getting any commissions for people signing up. The Threatens one says Palladium Mag's podcast, never heard of it. The value of everything, well, actually, with Austrian School Economics, Karl Menger, all value is subjective. Subjective value theory, Karl Menger. So value is very subjective. Valuations are subjective. Okay, someone's just posting like three or four different things in the chat, the same copy and paste to get me over to their YouTube channel. No, thank you, sir. Okay, well, I think that's it for this short little show. I will put the study in the information and description section if you want to read it. For my Patreon account contributors, there is a new article out about trouble in paradise for this one company that was doing well, but the next couple quarters, next 6 months or so, could be very, very rough for this company. It's an in-depth research report available for Patreon account contributors. There's other podcasts and research articles available behind the paywall. I have almost 400 Patreon account contributors now. It is growing very, very rapidly, so thank you very much. For $5 a month, I intentionally am offering it way below what I should charge because I want to move my income away from YouTube, away from Google AdWords revenues, which could subjectively decide to literally demonetize all my videos, as I think I've had now 9 or 10 videos out of the last 14. It's a lot. There's yellow. When I log into my YouTube channel account, there's yellow demonetized C's of it. It was like 9 in a row at one point, videos that were demonetized. Just ridiculous. Yes, poor Baby Yoda. Poor Baby Yoda. Poor Baby Yoda. You're going to have to, if you pre-ordered a Baby Yoda, you might not be getting it for a while. Let's just say that. Okay, and thank you very much to my 10 or so monthly PayPal contributors who chip in. It's much appreciated. And people who throw me a tip once in a while with some cryptocurrencies. Also appreciated. Although Bill Holter does not appreciate it, and apparently Jim Woolley does not either, because Jim Woolley sent me an email that I talk about crypto way too much, even though I can't remember the last time I actually did a show on crypto. Okay, well, that's it for this show. Thank you, everyone, for listening.